Hey guys, and welcome back to the Q&A. So today's Q&A is not going to be one topic, it will be quite a few questions. This covers most of the ones up to the fourth Q&A video. Basically, these are the kind of questions that I can't really talk about for 10 minutes. And you know what, it's not not an insult to the questions, there's just some things that don't suit a long-form response. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first one is, what is your opinion on clicking versus keybinding? Not counting you having a gaming mouse like I do. Well, gaming mouse or not, honestly, if you click, you are just worse. It's that simple. Key binding is much, a million times much more efficient, and there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Now, first of all, I'd just like to say that my mouse, if you watch my gameplays, I still don't click even though it's a gaming mouse. I use the keypad on my mouse as a replacement for my actual keys because I find it more comfortable, but most of the people I know just do normal keys. But anyway, let's talk about why using a mouse is bad for clicking your abilities. First of all, it means that you cannot mouse turn easily. Now, mouse turning is when you hold in right click and then you can pan your camera around the place really easily. It's the most efficient way to move in the game, and you can't do that if you're using a mouse. Also, you have to deal with the movement time between moving your cursor between the different abilities. It also takes your focus away from what's going on. You're busy making sure that you actually click on an icon instead of looking at the boss, looking at what's going on. When what should actually happen is, if you have your keybinds committed to memory, you don't even need to look at your bars. Maybe you want to look at your timers or something, but you're too busy. If you're clicking, you're just way too busy looking at your bars and stuff like that to actually see what's going on in the fight, react to things in time, and just play well. There really is no comparison, and if you are a clicker, I just say, try keybinding and just stick with it for a month, and you'll find you'll do more damage, you'll be more aware in raids. If you're PvPing, now, you pretty much cannot PvP if you click. It's that simple. You will be that bad if you're a clicker, unless you've got some sort of crazy UI that is designed for clicking, but even then, you'll run into problems like not being able to mouse turn your character and stuff like that. So that's that question. The next one is, how much do you think MS affect your DPS? By MS, I think he means ping. Ping does affect your DPS. Not by the most massive amounts, because you can use the game's lag compensation and stuff like that. And WoW actually does a pretty good job of managing lag, but of course it does affect your DPS quite a bit. Really, it's hard. It's a hard problem to fix. You just need a better connection, but it does definitely affect your DPS. The best you can do is set in the latency compensation in the in-game options, a few things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all you can do in regards to that. Now the next one is, what is your response to the question of hunters being OP? Well, honestly, this isn't about hunters. This is about anything being OP. Yeah, I'm looking at raid bots, and every single class is every single of the main DPS specs are within 5 to 10k DPS, and this is of average parses on 10 normal. Now here's the thing, really the differences between classes are no more than 5%. Now, 5%, that is within the sort of thing where if you were playing the most OP class in the game, quota OP, and someone was playing, say, a very middle-of-the-road class, at the end of the day, the person who will win is the most skilled player. And so, yeah, it's mainly a thing about skill. Balance sort of bounces all over the place. And the whole Hunters OP thing's just fucking bullshit. Hunters were very, very middle-of-the-road actually, Hunters were pretty low in 5.0. They were very mediocre in 5.2. Right now, we're top 5. I think we're we're in the bottom end of top 5, I think. But still, we're not really ahead of the pack. Looking at, say, raid bots or something, the highest specs by quite a margin are Arcane Mages and Affliction Warlocks. Affliction Warlocks actually being 10k higher than Hunters, but honestly, doesn't particularly matter, I suppose. Well, actually, I think I just made a derp. No, I didn't make a derp. Never mind, it's all good. So, yeah, the whole your class is OP thing, no, it's mainly about skill. The skilled player will still be able to win, you just need to play your class perfectly, and that's what you should always strive to do. Just disregard people's QQing about balance and try to be as good as you can, because at the end of the day, that's probably what's going to have you doing the most damage. Now the next question is, have you played any Horde races? I have played a few of them up to level 10 just to see the starter zones, but no, I have not played Horde. Basically, I don't have the time. Especially now with university, this is crazy. I have to learn C#, XNA, monogame, that whole thing. and develop a game with 3 people in that, which should be a crazy amount of work, and then I have to do one of my own for another module, which will also be a crazy amount of work, and then I have to learn some networking bullshit, so I'm just busy. I don't have time to play any other classes. Honestly, the only leveling I will do is for background footage in one of my videos, or, say, the Revisiting Northrend series, which is something, by the way, it's not dead. I love recording that series, it's still a thing. Now, the next one is, this is actually a great question. What do you think about the possibility of AoE target dummies? This is actually pretty cool. So, right now, we can target dummy our single target pretty well, but we can't do that for AoE. Honestly, I think that these target dummies shouldn't be in the world, because then you have problems with lag with a whole bunch of people in one area, and there's so many spell effects and all that bullshit. Basically, I think the Proving Grounds should be expanded to have another room. In that room, you have loads of target dummies, and you can configure, you can say, I want 5 target dummies, and the game will just put them all in cleave range or something like that. That way people will actually be able to test things out. And another nice thing about having this system is you could have a vendor in there that sells, well, I think there is actually a vendor in there that sells buffs. Well, that buff vendor can give you all your raid buffs, so you can go in there and start to try to accurately gauge your DPS. And of course, this doesn't translate directly into a raid experience, but what it does do is it gives you some objective basis for comparison as to if you want to roll with, say, this talent or this talent, if you're multi-dotting or, you know, multi-targeting or something like that. So yes, awesome question. I think it would be fantastic. About the possibility of it happening, I don't think Blizzard are going to do it yet. The reason for that is because I think they're just trying to get, like, Proving Grounds to be a thing in their current form. Honestly, I don't think that's the best way to do things at the minute. I really like your idea, and I hope that does come into the game. That would be pretty cool. Now, next up, how do you leave your guild that you've been in for a while because they can't progress enough and want to stay friends with them all? This is a very hard one to do, actually, but it's very doable. What I'd say is, if you can do this, like via a forum post or something a bit more long form, then do that. You know, it's as personal as possible so you can get your truth, like, feelings across. And you basically just want to say that, first of all, you'd like to keep your alts in the current guild, because you said you want to, like, stay friends with them all, so keep alts in there, and just move over your main raiding character to wherever guild you want to move it to. As for saying how to leave it, just say, like, you know, they will understand. Just say that you're looking for a bit of a different experience in the game right now, and you just want to move your main over to this raiding guild to try it out. I think that is absolutely fair. Like, one of the most, like, dead-on respected people in our guild did that for quite a while, and no one held it against them. Everyone completely understood. Like, the guy was a badass, and we weren't doing as well as he could, and at the end of the day, people understand that this is their, you know, their guildmates. This is their free time. So it's like people are going to shout at you, unless, well, they shouldn't. You know, if they're the people where you want to stay friends with all of them, then they'll probably understand, and I think you'll be just fine. So next, this is from, who's it from? Silas. Yes, it's from him. Yes, do you think it's wise of Blizzard to be so vocal with their fan/player base? Player base, that's not even a thing. Player base. What I mean is when people, and for some reason I didn't copy the rest of the question into this Word document, but I get the gist. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword, and it's a double-edged sword with both sides of that sword really fucking sharp. It's hard. So on the one hand, if they listen too much, then the game gets kind of backseat designed by the vocal minority, which means it will turn into a terrible game that's good for like 5%, 10% of the player base, and terrible for the other 7.2 million, which would be awful. Then the other problem is, say, they're developing in a bubble, and they get completely disconnected from their player base. If they do that, then the game just starts to diverge from what the player base actually wants. And it's very hard to judge things like this, and right now Blizzard have got very solid metrics and things like that. So they don't actually need to hear someone say, I really enjoy this. They can see statistically what's going on. And at the end of the day, numbers don't lie, statistics are very important. So if you're wondering, like, let's just call both extremes two evils. And I would say that Blizzard developing in a bubble would be the lesser of those two evils. Taking on too much community feedback is absolute no-no in game design, because if you take on way too much, the game isn't yours, and it starts to compromise your own ideals and things like that in the game. So yeah, I mean, it's not wise of them to listen too much, but it's also not wise for them to listen too little. I think that they should basically develop exactly what they want to do, while taking into consideration what people say, but not at all letting what people say actually be the be-all and end-all their decision-making. It's a very hard balance to make, and it is just that, it's a balance. It's hard to do, and Blizzard are a very good game developer, in the scheme of things anyway, and let's just forget about Diablo 3 on PC. Actually no, that's not fair in Diablo 3. You know what, Reaper of Souls, that seems like the team knows they know what they're doing, so good on you Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls people. So yeah, pretty much, it's a balance. They just need to get the balance right. And that is it for today's episode. If you would like a question of yours to be on the Q&A, then leave it in the comments. I prefer the kind of long form things I can make a video out of, but shorter things like this, I usually wait a week or something like that, and then collate a whole bunch of them into one video. If you would like to help me out when I'm finding questions, if you make sure to include the word question at least once in your comment, then I can just use the find tool in Google Chrome to find your question really easy. That would save me a bunch of time. But anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please like and subscribe. And with that, I'll see you next time.